Good morning, students. We are continuing with isolating variables. You will see in today's lesson. So when we have an equation, again, we have many different forms. We have standard form, we have slope y-intercept form. Any equation that we rearrange is still the exact same equation. We are not actually changing the equation. We're only changing the format that we are expressing it in. Now, when we take an equation and move everything to the right and leave one variable on the left, or vice versa, that means that we are isolating the variable or solving for that variable. So in example 1, the instructions read isolate for y. So that means I want y all by itself on either side of the equal sign. So I'm going to choose to move the 5x over to the right-hand side. I'm left with 7y equals 35 minus 5x. I need to get rid of this 7. So I divide everything by 7. Now, when I move it over, I can either divide the whole thing by 7 and write it out as y equals 35 over 7 minus 5x, or I can divide each piece on the other side by 7. So I'd have y equals 35 over 7 minus 5x over 7. It's your choice, okay? Example B. I want to isolate for y. So this time I have to take the 3x, move it to the right-hand side, take the 10, move it to the right-hand side. So I'm left with 4y equals negative 3x minus 10. Now, to get rid of the 4, move it over to the other side, everything gets divided by 4. Again, I can divide individually negative 3x by 4, negative 10 by 4, or to make it cleaner, I can divide the entire numerator by 4. Example 2, you are asked to solve for b. Again, that's the same thing as asking you to isolate for b. So you can see we have 3 variables here. I'm going to follow the exact same method. I want b all by itself. So I'm going to take this 5c and I'm going to move it this time to the left-hand side. So it's a positive 5c. When I move it over, it's going to become d minus 5c equals 2b. I need to get rid of this 2. So I divide out both sides by 2. And I'm left with d minus 5c all 2 equals b. My next example, we can see that we have fractions. So the best way to handle this is to clear the fractions. So remember, when I want to clear fractions, I look at my denominators, 2, 3, 4, and I ask myself, what is a number that divides evenly, or that is evenly divided by each of those numbers? And that would be 12. That's my lowest common denominator. So I'm going to multiply every single term by 12. So when I multiply 1/2 b by 12, the 2 and the 12 reduce, and I'm left with 6 times 1b. When I multiply 1/3 by 12, the 3 and the 12 reduce, and I'm left with 4 times c. And finally, 1/4 times 12, the 4 and the 12 reduce, and I'm left with 3. So here we have 6b minus 4c equals 3. Remember, we are trying to isolate for b, so I'm going to take this negative 4c, move it to the right-hand side. I have 6b equals 3 plus 4c. Divide both sides by 6. b equals 3 plus 4c. Now again, this is what I was talking about earlier. I could separate and make it 3 divided by 6 plus 4c divided by 6. It's your choice. If you choose to separate, then you must reduce. 3 over 6 will, and 4 over 6 will also reduce. So I have a final answer of b equals 1/2 plus 2/3 c, or 2c over 3. So this answer here is identical to this answer here, 3 plus 4c over 6. Here I cannot reduce. When I take them separately, I must reduce. Sorry, let me see if I can get this for you. The screen doesn't want to cooperate. There we go. Okay, so there's my final answer. B equals 1/2 plus 2/3 c. Okay, there we go, page 3. Example 3. Given the triangle below, let's write the formula for the area of a triangle. So let's recall formula for the area of a triangle is base times height divided by 2. Alternatively, you could write that out as 1/2 times the base times the height. It's up to you. So I'm going to take this formula and I want to rewrite it for h. I want h isolated. So I'm going to have to take the b, move it over, take the 2, move it over. So I always start by taking the 2, since it's division, and I'm going to move it over to the opposite side and it becomes multiplication. So now I have 2a equals b times h. And I want to get rid of the b because we're trying to isolate h, so I divide both sides by b, and I'm left with 2a divided by b equals h. Part C. Determine h if a equals 55 centimeters squared and b equals 4 centimeters. So now I'm going to substitute in 55 for a and 4 for b, and I will solve for h. Substituting in, 2 times 55 divided by 4 gives me 27.5. So don't forget, this is a measurement. This is the height of the triangle, so don't forget to include your units there. Example 4, Mary sells this for $30 and bracelets for $20. Last week she made $1,020. Define variables and write an equation to model this situation. So we've seen these problems before in Chapter 3 and Chapter 4. I want to stress, when you are asked to define variables, you need to be specific. So here, I'm going to choose the variables n and b, simply because we're talking about necklaces and bracelets. You could very easily have chosen x and y. It's your choice. What's important is that when you define your variables, you explain what those variables represent. So here, I'm going to let n represent the number of necklaces sold, and b will represent the number of bracelets sold. So my equation becomes 30n, because each necklace is $30, plus 20b, because each bracelet is $20, equals a total of 1,020, because that's how much money she made. So there's my equation to model the situation. Okay, I'm not going to change anything yet. When you're asked to write an equation to model a situation, the numbers, the expression should match exactly what's in the original sentence. Now we are being asked to isolate for b. So I'm going to take this equation, I'm going to move the 30n over, and then I will divide by 20. I'm going to isolate for b, and then there's a part 2. If Mary sold 18 necklaces, how many bracelets did she sell? So let's first isolate for b, and then we will substitute in 18 for n. So I move the 30n over, it becomes negative. Take this 20, divide both sides by 20. Now here, I divided the entire numerator by 20. I didn't take each piece separately. But notice that I can actually divide all 3 of these numbers by 10. So I must do that. I have to simplify my work. Okay? So we end up with b equals 102 minus 3n. And again, I could have taken each one separately, and then this 102 would have been further simplified to 51. Okay, so there's my expression. Now I'm going to substitute in 18 for the number of necklaces sold, and I will determine how many bracelets were sold. So 102 minus 3 times 18, all divided by 2. We follow BEDMAS. 3 times 18 is 54. Subtract. Sorry, I went a bit quick there. I'm going to subtract my numerator. Gives me 48, divide by 2, and we end up with 24. So don't forget this is a word problem, so I'm going to end with a therefore statement. Therefore, Mary sold 24 bracelets. Part C, isolate for n. So we go back to this equation here, and now I'm going to rewrite so that I have n equals. So I isolated for 30n already. 30n equals 1020 minus 20b. I moved that 20b over already. Now I'm going to divide both sides by 30. And again, notice everything here is divisible by 10, so I will simplify, and I end up with n equals 102 minus 2b divided by 3. Now we're going to substitute in 33 for B because we sold 33 bracelets, and we will solve for the number of necklaces sold. And there we have 12 necklaces have been sold. So for extra practice, I would like you to look at page 235, numbers 1, 2, 4, and 7. Have a good day.